So we talked earlier about some of the legislation that's percolating on Capitol Hill to audit the Fed. Can you talk about where the policy stands now by virtue of the Dodd-Frank legislation and why you think some of the proposed legislation isn't the right thing to do?
So the Dodd-Frank legislation with Fed cooperation and with a lot of other Fed initiatives has basically created a completely transparent Fed as far as financials are concerned. When people say audit the Fed, what they mean is open the Fed's books. What is the Fed's transactions? Currently, every program that we initiated during the crisis has been completely open to the GAO. All the information has been provided to the public. On December 1st, we put out a complete record of all 21,000 loans that we made during the crisis, all 21,000 of which, by the way, were paid back with interest. Explaining, what the program was, what the criteria were, who was the borrower, what was the collateral, how much was lent, when was it repaid. All that information was provided. We provide weekly statements of our balance sheet. We have an outside auditor, Deloitte & Touche, which comes in and audits our books and publishes all that information every year. So every aspect of the Fed's financial dealings are wide open. And we have invited the GAO to come in and look at all of our activities, both extraordinary activities during the crisis and all of our ongoing financial activities. So there is no sense in which the Fed has secret financial dealings. All of our assets, all of our transactions are open to the public and will be open to the public, and I've committed to that transparency. Now, what audit the Fed means in the language that has been used by some members of Congress is not about the financials of the Fed. Rather, it's about, quote, auditing monetary policy, which means that the GAO would be assigned by the Congress to look at monetary policy decisions, to take the materials prepared for the meeting, to depose potentially the members at the meeting, to essentially provide an evaluation to the Congress at very short horizons of whether or not the Fed was making the right monetary policy decision. I think this is very much different from what most people think about when they think about an audit. And what this is basically is a very significant challenge to the notion that while the Congress has every right to set the goals and objectives of the Federal Reserve and the tools of the Federal Reserve, it should be up to the Fed to make monetary policy decisions independently of short-term political influences and with an eye towards the long-term objectives of the economy. And what that kind of legislation would do has nothing to do with financials. It would be very much a significant step towards direct congressional oversight of the decision process itself. And personally, I think that would be a very bad outcome. We have seen around the world that, and there's a great deal of evidence, empirical and practical evidence to support this, that central banks that are independent in their decision-making and have a clear mandate provide a much better outcome both in the economy and in financial markets than a central bank which is whose decisions are dictated by short-term political considerations. So that's something which I think is an extremely important principle.